Welcome back to our Global IT Solution GITS Cypress channel on lecture 3. Before you started this lecture, I highly encourage you to complete previous lecture related with this course. So let's get started and jump on the topics. So today we'll be discussing about talking about customizing the cypress.config.js file, configure Allure report, which means adding Allure report into the framework, run the test in headless mode, and also customize the script block in the package.json file for the Allure report. So it can automatically generate the report on the browser. All right, so let's get deep dive into it. So where we left on the previous lecture, which is readme.md file, package.json file, which is we already created, and let's go ahead, follow our instructions, customize script cypress.config file. So let's go to the cypress.config. So over here, as you see, only like a very minimum configuration, right? Now let's go ahead and see one of the GitHub repo, which is by me. So Cypress.js GitHub Actions Allure report. This is a GitHub repo. Let's get inside it and copy the config.js file. Then I'll walk you through line by line. That way I can skip the time to writing it. Okay, so let's copy and paste. Okay, so over here the first one is a Allure report constant. We'll talk about in a bit. And then the second line, which is everything's imported from the Cypress module start define config. This is a mandatory environment, which is a Allure report environment. Then the E2E test. Our intention is to execute E2E test. So we'll be adding the base URL, which is the internet.herokuapp.com, and spec pattern. Spec pattern means it's a test case pattern. Anywhere it's saying under the Cypress folder E2E test, then whatever it started with or ending with .js, .jsx, ts, tsx, anything related with it will execute. Then the setup node events on config, which is an Allure report turn on. Web security false, video false, which is I don't need video at this moment, but like during the executions, if you make it false to true, it will create a video for your execution. Then viewport, which is a 1080, which is a standard viewport width, height, and default command timeout. So this is by it's basically it comes with the default configuration. Page load time, this is we are adding as a customized here. It will not like the waiting for 2 minutes. It's basically till the website loaded complete, it will execute the test cases. So trash asset before run true. So anything we have like related with the cache cookies, it will delete before runs. Headless true. So we'll be running the headless mode in this test. So this is our actual configuration file. Now in this test, we'll be creating a new test in this lecture, as we are using the base URL, as you see. So under the E2E test, there is a getting started, right? We'll be customizing one of the tests here. So let's create a folder called archive and move all both folders. Archives, and I don't need this advanced example under the E2E. So let's move into it. And then also I don't need them getting started. basically on the getting started under the E2E, I just need a to-do file, right? To-do mode. I don't need the folder structure basically. Getting started. We'll be customizing our folder structure later on. Let's say inside the to-do, we'll be using a describe block. Let's clean up the test. So it started with the before. So Cypress by default using Mocha and Chai. So Mocha is a JavaScript framework. So all the described, you see the described, it's similar to the class in Java. So described, it came from the Mocha framework. Before each, basically it will execute anything inside before each before the test it blocks. So before each, we already have it. We already defined base URL inside the config file, as you see Heroku app. So we'll be using only the home, which is a /, and it block are nothing, just a test case. Each validation will be goes in a it block. So I don't need the rest of them. I will be using only one, right? So let's go back here until that, delete everything except one it block, because we'll be working only one it block at this moment, one validation. So then we'll expand our validation in later on. So let's say sci.get and dot click. We'll be using only click here. Now let's go to the Heroku apps. If I clicked here, it will take me to the Heroku apps. We'll be clicking on the A/B testing, right? Inspect. We'll get the locators. For the locators, I'm using Renorex Solocity. The faster way to get the CSS. I'm gonna use here as a CSS. It should be clicked on, right? Now let's go ahead and run our test in a headless mode. So we'll be using npm run test, right? So before running the test, let's go back to our existing GitHub repo and go to the package.json file and see from here the test. We'll be copying the test from here and paste it into the package.json file, because without defining here, it will not work in a terminal. So test, we make the variable and letting them know, hey, Cypress base URL will be using Heroku apps, and it will overwrite from the base config.js base URL. Then Cypress run environment Allure true. So as we don't have the Allure report yet, but let's go ahead and add Allure report. For the Allure report, we'll be let's search Cypress Allure report from the Google, and we'll be following the plugins. Let's go ahead, install our plugin. This is the installation using npm. Go ahead, install our plugin. Then what is the next? Next will be, we already add this inside the module. Then it says Cypress support E2E. Add this one, Cypress support E2E. Let's go to the Cypress support E2E and add this import. Okay. What else? Cypress before 10, it has to be there, because our one after 10. Then it says the index, support index import support index. So that's mean we don't have the support, because this is not a before 10, this is after 10, right? So now after this, That's pretty much right. It's supposed to be working as expected. So we only did two things. One is we installed the Allure report, then set up for 10 plus, which is we added this configuration file in the config file before. Then also we added the import. Okay, this is pretty much it. Now we can run the test from the script, right? Package.json file. As you see, we're defining the test which is using the Cypress run -- environment Allure true. And inside the config file, we already declared that Allure report and the Allure environment and the node setup. Let's see. npm run test. Okay, so test is running in a headless mode using Electron, Cypress, and example to one test passing, and it says displaying to basically our this is the test name, right? Or let's say Horoclaps app application validation, and over here just validate A/B testing on the A/B testing is clickable. Okay, now let's run it again. npm run test. It is up and running. Now it will execute todo.sci.js application validation one passing, and also you will be seeing the results here as in a table format. Now in order to execute our Allure report, so we need to add a script for the report script. Let's add the report script in the package.json file. So you see on the left hand side, we don't have the report yet, but we just added the report, and we'll be seeing the report in the next lecture. For now, this is it, and thank you so much for watching this lecture. Stay tuned for upcoming lecture for the rest of the course.